The Father of Shadows, also known as Nakash, or the Shining One. The Father of Shadows is one of the most profound and terrifying figures in the Star Wars mythology, especially in the expanded lore of supernatural encounters. Accepted as fact by some fans, his existence positions him as the archetype of a pure evil entity, the originator of corruption and darkness in the Star Wars galaxy. He was once considered the second most powerful of the race of Celestials, godlike entities responsible for shaping the universe. Nakash was a radiant and a glorious being, second only to the Supreme Maker in his beauty. However, his rebellion against the Maker's divine plan led to his fall and transformation into the Father of Shadows, becoming a being of unrelenting malevolence. Through his defiance, he created the dark side of the Force itself, forever fracturing its balance and reshaping the destiny of the galaxy. Nakash's power is nearly incomprehensible, rivaling even the Supreme Maker in his prime. This is a being far beyond Abeloth, far beyond full potential Anakin, and far beyond, really, anything else. As a Celestial, he possessed the unique ability to create concepts through divine song, shaping reality itself. However, instead of contributing to the harmony of creation, Nakash introduced spite by crafting a new concept, evil. His Song of Discord corrupted the Force itself, weaving darkness into its very fabric, becoming a part of it forever. This act marked the birth of the dark side, an aberration and a cancerous corruption of the Force's original design, an untainted state. For those who accept Nakash's existence, this interpretation fundamentally redefines the nature of the Force. The light side represents its pure, original balance, while the dark side is a leech, a tumor introduced by his rebellion. Thus, the Father of Shadows is not merely a participant in the cosmic struggle between light and dark. He is the creator and the ruler of evil itself, the Star Wars universe's equivalent of the devil. The mythology surrounding Nakash also highlights his ultimate goal, to transcend the Supreme Maker, the galaxy itself. He seeks the destruction of the Supreme Maker and the obliteration of all existence. He aims to replace the multiverse with an eternal void governed solely by his will. In this abomination, he mirrors classic depictions of the devil as an ultimate adversary to creation, but on a scale that includes the multiverse. His domain, known as the Errant Dimension, is said to have been abandoned by the Celestials after they failed to purge his corruption. This plane of existence became a stronghold of his evil, serving as a source of influence to root the dark side into spreading across the galaxy, stemming from this nameless void to the Jedi and Sith, but known well to him. From here, he orchestrates his designs, a shadow over the multiverse which whispers of corruption and can even be felt in distant corners of the galaxy. The dark side, adding to the mythos of the Star Weirds, the spectral beings that haunt hyperspace and wild space and associate with terror and despair. Tales suggest that these entities are his creation, either birthed directly from his essence or manifestations of his will. Others propose that they are his children, crafted out of boredom or malice to serve his purpose. Whether they are direct agents or byproducts of his corruption though, the Star Weirds reinforce his status as a cosmic force of horror and unpredictability. Through them and other corrupted beings, Nakash ensures that his influence remains pervasive, touching everything from the rise of the Sith to the collapse of entire civilizations. The Father of Shadows' origins tie him to the Supreme Maker and the Celestials, beings who collaborated to create the multiverse and Star Wars. The Supreme Maker's divine song brought the Force into existence, creating an energy field that powered the Celestials and connected all of life together. Nakash, as one of the most powerful Celestials, was uniquely gifted with the ability to shape reality, but his pride and desire for autonomy drove him to compose his own song. This sounds a lot like the Silmarillion, but instead of adding harmony to the Maker's song, he created discord. He introduced evil, a concept that had not been known into existence. His transformation into the Father of Shadows marked the first fracture in the Maker's grand creation, setting off a chain of events that would ripple through the galaxy for eons. The corruption wrought by Nakash was not limited to the Force, but extended to the Celestials themselves and their other creations. One of his most infamous acts was the corruption of Telatni, one of Wutsek's children who were fellow Celestials. Telatni was meant to serve the greater good, But Nakash proved that his power had grown beyond other Celestials, and that the dark side would eventually bend them too to his singular will. The resulting conflict between the Celestials and Nakash's forces led to the widespread devastation of both of their forces, forcing the Celestials to retreat and focus on creating new universes, hoping that Nakash's influence could be minimized there. Despite their efforts though, his evil seeped into the main galaxy, ensuring that the dark side remained an enduring force of corruption. For fans who accept the existence of the Father of Shadows, his presence fundamentally alters the philosophy of the Force. No longer is there a natural balance of light and dark. The Force becomes a field tainted by external corruption. The Jedi's role, then, is not just to maintain balance, but to restore the Force to its original, uncorrupted state. Meanwhile, we have the Sith, knowingly or unknowingly perpetuating Nakash's discord, becoming agents of the Father of Shadows. This interpretation casts the struggle between light and dark in the galaxy as a cosmic battle, not just for balance, but for the very soul of creation. Interestingly, Nakash is also referred to as the Shining One in some ancient texts, a title that reflects his original glory. His transformation into the Father of Shadows is a cautionary tale, illustrating how pride and ambition will lead to corruption. His true name, Nakash, is forbidden in many traditions to mention, a name feared for its association with ultimate darkness. His nature is of pure evil, yet there is a tragic element to his story, a once glorious being consumed by the very concept that he created. I love the theory that the Father of Shadows has transcended any physical or any tangible form, and has instead become his own creation, the dark side of the Force itself. The idea suggests that in his relentless pursuit of ultimate power and rebellion against the Supreme Maker, Nakash became entirely consumed by his Song of Discord. No longer a distinct being, he is hypothesized to have dissolved into the very essence of the darkness that he crafted, his identity and will forever intertwined with the Force's corrupted aspect. In this interpretation, the dark side is not just a part of the Force, but a living embodiment of Nakash's malevolence, perpetuating his influence across the galaxy. The theory positions Nakash not merely as the creator of the dark side, but as its eternal steward, existing within it as a fragmented consciousness, the voice that whispers to those that use its power. In this view, the dark side's seductive and corruptive nature is not an inherent property of the Force, but the lingering presence of Nakash himself. His transformation into the dark side would mean he is no longer an individual entity acting from the shadows, but an omnipresent force of destruction, driven entirely by the impulses that drove his life. If true, this would mean that Nakash has become a tragic figure, lost completely to his own creation. His ambition to rule and his desire to impose his will on the galaxy consumed him, leaving behind a fragmented existence. In a sense, Nakash's descent into the dark side mirrors the downfalls of those that seek to wield it, as its power will inevitably destroy those who rely on it. This deepens his role as the Star Wars equivalent as the Devil, not a singular adversary, but an eternal, corruptive presence that touches everything and everyone. The Father of Shadows' influence is prophesied to persist until the end of time, when the Son of Suns and the Daughter of Stars are said to rise and vanquish his evil. Until then, his shadow continues, shaping the destinies of heroes and villains alike. If his existence is real, then he is not merely an antagonist, but the ultimate force of destruction in the Star Wars universe, a being whose goal is nothing less than the obliteration of creation. And that, my friends, is the Father of Shadows. Would you like a full script further detailing the Supreme Maker and the Celestials, the forces behind Nakash's origins, and his ultimate adversary? If so, if you could like the video and request it down below, that would help out a lot. But now we have to talk about the elephant in the room. Many fans and scholars of Star Wars do not consider supernatural encounters to be canon, whether in the EU or in the Disney era continuity. While the book draws heavily from the EU lore and weaves its narrative into the wider mythology, it is an unofficial fan-created work not endorsed by Lucasfilm, with Star Wars choosing to lean more into the mythic elements. Going further though, George Lucas originally conceptualized the dark side as a perversion of the natural state of existence, a destructive corruption that acted as a leech upon the Force. In his earliest drafts of these ideas in Star Wars, the dark side was not an intrinsic part of the Force's balance, but rather a malignant force introduced through selfishness, fear, and hatred. This interpretation aligns with the notion of the Father of Shadows, where the dark side is an external, unnatural element that distorts the Force's true, harmonious state. Under this view, the dark side was inherently evil, a manifestation of chaos and destruction that needed to be eradicated for the galaxy to return to balance. However, over time, Lucas would refine his understanding of the Force and its duality, shifting the dark side from being an unnatural corruption to an essential aspect of existence. He began to portray the Force as a whole, with two natural sides, light and dark, both of which are necessary for true balance. In his revised view, the dark side is not inherently evil, but represents raw emotion, passion, and power, which can be wielded responsibly or destructively. This evolution in Lucas's philosophy reframed the Jedi and Sith conflict as a battle of how to use the Force, rather than a struggle to remove an external malignancy. By incorporating the dark side as an intrinsic part of the Force, Lucas effectively nullified stories like the Father of Shadows, which persist that the dark side is an aberration introduced by an external figure. Under Lucas's later view, though, the Force encompasses all aspects of existence: creation, destruction, order, and chaos, and the challenge lies in how individuals navigate and will use its power. This suggests that the dark side is not inherently evil. Rather, it is the misuse of the dark side, driven by greed, hatred, and selfishness, that causes suffering. Consequently, the story of the Father of Shadows as the origin of the dark side becomes incompatible with Lucas's vision, and how he shifted it to become a more balanced energy field. Instead of being a leech or a tumor, the dark side becomes a necessary counterpoint to the light side, both contributing to the dynamic tension that drives the Star Wars universe together. Beyond all of that though, the Father of Shadows, Nakash, remains one of the most fascinating and cosmic figures in all of Star Wars lore, offering a unique glimpse into the mysterious origins of the galaxy, and one of its most powerful figures. While his existence and mythology surrounding him may not align with the current understanding of the Force or George Lucas's ultimate vision, the Father of Shadows serves as a thought-provoking theory about the Star Wars universe's creation and the nature of its eternal struggle between light and dark. As a being of unimaginable power, leaving fans to ponder his influence on the wider galaxy and his destiny. Whether Nakash is viewed as a literal entity, a symbolic representation of evil, or a cautionary tale about ambition and corruption, his connections to the Celestials, beings whose existence is firmly established in the EU, add weight to the narrative, offering us a glimpse into the architects of creation. The Celestials' involvement in shaping the galaxy remains an enduring mystery. Ultimately, the Father of Shadows occupies a unique place in Star Wars lore, blending speculative myth with elements of truth. He may not be canon or legends, but his story enriches the Star Wars galaxy, adding a more complex history of the Force and the galaxy itself. Whether embraced as legend or interpreted as a metaphor, the Father of Shadows challenges us to consider the origins of good and evil, the very nature of the Force, and the eternal questions that have defined a galaxy far, far away. And with that, may the Force be with you.